And what the Pel is up, everybody. I hope you're having a good day so far on this Tuesday. My one or 2 days off that I have this week, I'm definitely using it to hammer home some Pelicans content. So I appreciate you stopping by and joining the conversation. Today, we're talking a little bit about Collin Sexton and what he would bring to the Pelicans, along with, the Lonzo rumors and the fact that Willie Green is basically guaranteed to be the Pelicans head coach now. So again, thank you for tuning in today. If you have any questions regarding anything we're talking about, I'm going to actually adjust that banner or the ticker across the bottom and put it in there. Drop your thoughts on Collin Sexton joining the Pelicans. All right. So, anywho, like I said, today we're talking a little bit about Collin Sexton joining the Pelicans. If you think it's a good idea or a bad idea for that matter, drop in the comments and we'll discuss it here. But for right now, before we get started, make sure that you like and subscribe depending on where you're at. Drop a comment, leave a rate and review on Apple Podcasts, etc. You know what to do. Also, I am Elliot Clough at Elliot Clough on Twitter. So now, like I said, big news from today is, other than, Lonzo possibly being out of town and being shipped out, Pels still don't have a head coach, but I'm under the assumption it's going to be Willie Green, and that's pretty much a given at this point. They're probably working to sign him, or if not, have already signed him at this point in time and just don't want to release the information because of the finals, etc. That's kind of a given at this point. I think a lot of people are on the same page, and that's what they expect. But we'll start talking more about the draft once that hire is made, and we've actually got a mock draft coming up tonight on my Twitter feed. It'll be a thread of videos, so stay tuned. You'll see who I draft there. But anyway, we'll talk more about that starting tonight around 6 p.m., that mock draft. Anyway, Sexton is reported to possibly be in rumors with the Pelicans. They might go after him here soon, whether it's with draft capital or not. There's no real specifics going on about who or what is involved. There's rumors, sure, and I've seen articles regarding first-round picks and stuff like that. There isn't anything from, the Wojs or the Shams in terms of tangible things that are moving. I saw the tweet from Landon Buford. He said that the discussions have been preliminary thus far, but that it's likely to change as we get closer to the 2021 NBA draft. Now, the rumors and the conversation on Twitter has been going one way or another. It's second-round picks, and that's all they're going to get, or first-round picks. They want the number 10 pick from the Pelicans, and maybe players. I don't know. By the sounds of it, and in our mock draft, Collin Sexton is very available. And when I say the mock draft, trades were available, so I've got a couple trades in there as well, but Sexton, from what I gather and from what I've seen, is very available. And the accounts and the pages that are talking about the Cavs getting a first-round pick in exchange or adding Kevin Love to a deal like that are generally from Cleveland Cavaliers media, people who cover the team or fans of the team. And I don't necessarily see that happening, especially with the fact that team does not want to pay him. They don't. They just don't. For whatever reason, if they don't believe that he can come through and ultimately be the leader of the franchise, or the fact that they're probably going to draft Jalen Green coming up here in a few weeks. And that would mean they'd have Jalen Green, Collin Sexton, and Darius Garland all in the backcourt. And with Sexton's deal coming up and the fact that he'd have to be paid, he's the one out. Garland has shown some flashes of being really awesome, and I can look at his stats in a second here, but Sexton is the man out because of the fact that he's probably going to get paid. Whether the Pelicans want to pay something like that, or whether they're going to be able to at that point in time, depending on, extensions and bringing in a star possibly this offseason, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that or if they're going to be willing to do that. And this would ultimately be a one-year rental where they gave up some of their picks in order to go get him. Now, in terms of who or what I'd personally be giving up for Sexton, I think first what we have to do is talk about what Sexton brings to the table, because you can't just throw the name out there and say that's it. I'm not going to let that be where the conversation starts. I want you to be able to do your own research, but I also want to provide what I have found as well. So that's what we're going to do first. So Sexton is a point guard out of Alabama. A lot of people made the comp to Kyra Lewis when he was coming out of Alabama. Kyra Lewis had 2 years at Alabama, and the jump shot, the percentages weren't quite there, but we saw Sexton coming along in terms of his jump shot percentage. So we were like, they're both fast. They both attack the basket. They're both the leading scorers at Alabama. So that's the comp. And I also made the comp to De'Aaron Fox. And we'll see if Kyra Lewis can come along in terms of being that level of player. But anyway, Sexton this last season, he averaged 24.2 points, 4.4 assists, and 3 rebounds in the greatest basketball league in the entire world. That is not something to be taken lightly. I don't care if you're playing for the Timberwolves and you average a number like that. The Timberwolves are bad, or even the Rockets and average numbers like that, and you're the lone good player, i.e. like a Kevin Porter Jr., you still have to be pretty damn good to put up numbers like that. 24 points a game in the greatest basketball league in the world is not something to bat one's eyes at. It's just not. No matter the rest of the talent on the roster, it's still really damn impressive. And the scoring output is there for him to certainly be the third option for the Pelicans. It's difficult to say that it'll translate right away and that it'll work right away between the three of Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and Collin Sexton, because guess what? The Pelicans are not in any way, shape, or fucking form going to give up Brandon Ingram to go get Collin Sexton. I saw somebody commented or responded to a tweet of mine regarding whether or not the Pelicans should go after Collin Sexton. I asked the people who follow me, and they responded, and it's so freaking fun when fans engage. So if you see anything on Twitter that piques your interest of mine or anything from Boot Crew Media, make sure you engage. It's fun as hell to have the back and forth and really enjoy that. But anyway, somebody mentioned, let's see here if I can find it quickly. Undefeated Never Lost, or Ill Mind of Nacho, said maybe it's a new offer, but rumor earlier in the summer was the Cavs offered Sexton, Nance, and picks for BI. Hard frickin' pass. Sorry, no thanks. No way in hell. Not happening. The only way the Pelicans would or should go after a Collin Sexton would be if he can be the third piece to Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, the third star, if you will. Not that Sexton's necessarily a star in the league, but he's still a really solid scorer and a really good player in the National Basketball Association. So in terms of percentages and what he shot from the floor, he shot 37.1% from deep on 4.4 attempts a game, along with 81% from the free throw line. So the 3-point percentage isn't fantastic. It's okay. It's a little bit less than what Lonzo put up this last year. I think he shot 38.1, but the circumstances were very different. Sexton is like one of maybe two bright spots on the entirety of the Cleveland roster. Like Darius Garland was pretty good this season. He only played 54 games, but Garland shot, let's see here, 39.5% from three, scored 17.4 points per game, and shot close to 85% from the free throw line while dishing out 6.1 assists per game. Isaac Okoro wasn't bad in his rookie season, but then you look down the rest of the roster. Larry Nance Jr. only played half the season, 35 games. Chetty Osman has not developed into what the Cavs are hoping he would be. Dean Wade was kind of a bright spot, I guess. And then, Kevin Love was only available for 25 games this season, and he averaged 12.2 points a game. That's just not conducive to having really solid shooting percentages and effective basketball. And he still shot 37.1% in what I believe to be his third year in the league. And basically, he was doing everything by himself, paired with another second-year guard in Darius Garland for a majority of the season. Obviously, they added Jarrett Allen as well, and that was big. Allen has been awesome for them, and if they can bring him back, they should. But it's in a situation, and I should have looked deeper into the statistics of when and where he was shooting these threes from, and I'll do that, and I'll probably reference it on other shows and podcasts, so stick around for that. But he shot 37.1% from three when, in essence, he kind of was the offense. 24 points a game with a team that largely doesn't have a lot of talent around him. They went 22-50 this year. I mean, he had to do a lot, and he had to do basically everything in order for them to win. You know, he was looked at as the guy to provide the spark, as the guy to score, as the guy to facilitate, and he dished out 4.4 assists per game, which isn't great. But at the same time, again, look at the rest of the roster. Nobody's that's worth the crap is really healthy consistently, and including guys that they brought in like Taurean Prince, who was in that trade with the Nets. And I mean, if you're going to blame somebody for the lack of assists, you have to look at the rest of the roster. You have to look at the three-point shooting percentage. You have to look at the detailed statistics, because he may very well have found some excellent shooters on the perimeter, but they just could not shoot worth a damn. I think I found I'm going to look at the team stats for this year on teamrankings.com, which, if you're curious about that for the NBA, perfect site that brings all of that up. I'm going to look at three-point percentage for this last year. Cleveland dead last, worse than the Pelicans. They shot 33.6% as a team from three. So where is he going to find these assists? You know, I mean, so much of scoring in the NBA comes from shooting the three-point ball, and they're the worst in the league at it. And in terms of two-point percentage, they were 26th with 51%. So where are these assists going to come from? Lack of talent, and they can't shoot the damn ball. Where are these he can't pass the ball assists coming from? Where? Tell me. I don't know, because the statistics don't line up. Also, and I said it, he shot 81% from the free throw line. So that 37% can continue to grow. And of course, we know Fred Vincent is capable of all things. That's always going to be a reference for us that cover the Pelicans, that are fans of the Pelicans. I talked about it on his candidacy for being a head coach. You know it. I don't need to go any more into it. But secondarily, and again, for those of you who are listening, drop a comment. Do you like the idea of Sexton? Obviously, I'm going to keep talking about it. And if we reference something that you are intrigued about, drop a comment. I want to hear your thoughts on this. But secondarily, some people have said that I just referenced that. Give me one moment here. To continue, it's an irrelevant argument in terms of the assists. It's irrelevant. Given everything I just referenced in terms of shooting percentages, in terms of talent, it's irrelevant. It's not necessary to talk about. And I'm also speaking of, the mock draft that I'll post a thread of later tonight. I'm going to post a thread of some Collin Sexton plays, because this dude is so freaking intense on the basketball court. This is a guy that the Pelicans could desperately use. And Ross Teveno, who's a co-host of Pro Pels Talk, you may know him as at Boot Crew Ross on Twitter, said after today that the Pro Pels Talk, they recorded a podcast. He said they just screamed out, Collin Sexton is the perfect fit for this team. And in terms of I like that. Nice. Rod Zigger, I think is your handle. Good comment there, buddy. We'll address that in a moment here too. But for those of you who are listening on the podcast, he said Sexton's greater than Lonzo, which is a good comment. For everybody who just tuned in, I'll add that there. But as I was saying, in terms of personality, this dude is exactly what the Pelicans need. Exactly. Look at the tape that we saw from him in the the summer league matched up with maybe former Pelican, current Pelican, Josh Hart. He's like licking his lips and down in this position and squeezing his hands. This dude is so incredibly intense and so drastically what the Pelicans need in terms of a personality. We've all seen that video that went viral of him at the free throw line, Collin Sexton looking at some random dude in this league and making exact eye contact, and then that guy breaks contact. I found this clip on YouTube as well that I'll post of defensive highlights where he shows his hustle plays. And it's like, good freaking Lord, the Pelicans need a little bit of that. And it's even when they're down 30 because they're the freaking Cavs. Collin Sexton, in terms of talent, can shoot the three ball. He can attack the basket and will do it much more consistently than Lonzo, as you see here. And he's not afraid of anyone. Not that Zion is, not that Brandon Ingram is, but that type of personality is so conducive to what the Pelicans need on this roster. Zion has shown a little bit of that we're not losing this game mentality, and throw a player like Collin Sexton, who has that type of intensity throughout the whole game, in that he is exactly what the Pelicans need in terms of intensity and scoring output. He's going to go to the rim. He's going to finish. Lonzo Ball, who is known to miss at least one layup a game. It's just Collin Sexton finishes through contact. He gets and ones, and he shoots 81% from the free throw line while shooting 37% from deep when he's having to do a lot of the creation because the Cleveland Cavaliers suck. I am kind of pissed off at myself that I didn't get him in this mock draft trade sort of situation that we're doing later tonight through Pelicans Plus on my Twitter feed because of everything I'm saying right now. And I'm gradually convincing myself that Collin Sexton is what the Pelicans should go for, who they should go for this offseason. And I mean, Collin Sexton brings all this to the table, and he's not a glue guy. He's not a Josh Hart. He's not a Najee Marshall. He's a rising talented player. I mean, he's not gonna get paid $1.5 million a year like Najee. He's not gonna get $6 million a year. I don't know how much Josh is making right now. I think maybe 6 or 8 or something like that. I'd have to look it up. But he's that, and he can be a leader. And this is what I was just talking about, James. And I appreciate you engaging. Collin Sexton doesn't pass. He says if we get him, we got minutes where Zion won't get the ball. No more young players. Also, he's going to get paid $20+ million next year. And that's an incredibly valid point, James. I think people are afraid of that too, and that's a big reason why the Cavs want to trade him. But I don't know that this is going to translate to the Pelicans because Collin Sexton hasn't played with caliber players like this. He hasn't. And I'd have to continue to watch a little bit more film, but we've seen the intensity from him, at least in moments. And again, the Willie Green addition to the roster, along with the possibility of Sam Mitchell. I mean, Willie Green, what he did is he took Devin Booker, who was not a factor on defense at all, and made him, good enough. And that's all the Pelicans have to have with the amount of talent that they have on this roster in Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, and now the possibility of Collin Sexton. I'll share that clip, and if you still feel the same way, more power to you. Again, that guy _Jaywalk always engaging with us, and I appreciate that, even though you disagree with me there, which is totally fine. But I am talking myself gradually into Collin Sexton. And would it be the end of the world if they don't get him? No. I think it was Dotson on Twitter responded to the possibility of grabbing Sexton this offseason and said there are bigger fish to fry, bigger stars to grab. And I agree. If you have to give up a boatload to get him, don't do it. I see Smith James going here. I'd rather go Malcolm Brogdon. And he mentioned that on our last pod as well. And that's fair. But with Brogdon, he's a little bit older. And I know you said they need vet guys. And I think that's a fair point too. But Brogdon, the injury history and the contract is a little bit concerning. I mean, he gets paid a lot to be hurt a lot. And I think that's a valid concern. If you have a counterpoint to that, let me know. I totally agree. I think Brogdon would be a great fit, but it's just about the injury concern for me. But anyway, in terms of what I would be willing to give up for a Sexton, first of all, Pelicans should not trade for Kevin Love. If he's included in a trade for Sexton, screw that. Somebody said that Kevin Love could be a good option for the Pels to get, and he would be a Blake Griffin type. Well, Kevin Love's never been that type of athlete. He's absolute trash defensively, and Blake Griffin's on the vet minimum. I'm not doing that. That it just doesn't translate, because Love is getting paid out the wazoo to sit on the bench for 3/4 of the season. It's 2/3 at the rate that he played this year, only played 25 games. Not doing that. Pels should not go get Kevin Love unless it's a vet minimum sort of situation and he gets bought out by the Cavs. If they can sign him to a 1-year, $2.2 million deal, sign me up. But I do not want him taking a roster spot on this team that needs veterans and more depth, especially if they trade some of that depth away. Not doing it. In terms of first-round picks, I'm not giving up any sort of boatload of picks to go get Sexton. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Do I like what he would bring? Do I like the potential? Absolutely. Second-round picks, give up Eric Bledsoe. Sign me the hell up. Getting rid of Eric Bledsoe to get Sexton? Yes. Yes. Now, one person said, and again, this is what I know. I haven't watched enough film on Sexton to be definitive about all of this. This is what I've seen. These are the tangible things that Sexton brings to the table that I've seen. I don't want to say that I'm a Sexton expert because I'm not. And these comments about him holding onto the ball too much and that he plays zero defense, it could be fair. I'll have to give it another look. But the intensity and the grit and just the guttural desire that he plays with, it gets me going. I just love it. It's awesome. And the Pelicans need a little bit of that energy. They just do. Like, I don't think that that's an arguable point. I think anybody who watched the Pelicans this year has to agree that they need a little bit of that. So that's my push for Collin Sexton. I don't want to give up the bevy of draft picks to go get him. I don't want to give up any of the young players like a Kyra, maybe a Kyra. Maybe if you have to give up Kyra and in a few seconds, I'd be willing to do that. You're not giving up Nah. You're not giving up Jackson Hayes. You're not giving up a ton of first-round picks, especially number 10, at least. And I see this from James again. Good point, James. I like that. I could see that. And if you get him on a 1-year rental and maybe do another sign-in trade, you don't want to load up on sign-in trades and bank on that because it's not a guarantee that players are going to want to go wherever. But with Sexton on the market now, there's the possibility of the market rising because apparently the Knicks are interested, and I could see another young team going out and wanting to get him. I don't know who that would be, and I haven't heard any other rumors regarding other than the Pelicans or the Knicks going for Collin Sexton. But if the market rises to a point where you got to give up multiple firsts, not worth it. I think kicking the tires on this is incredibly interesting, and I like Sexton and what he could bring to the table. Again, I'll be putting a thread up on Twitter about this probably a little bit later today, maybe tomorrow because of the mock draft tonight, which you should stay tuned for. That'll be on my Twitter feed. Now, to continue the conversation a little bit here, I want to talk about Lonzo and the rumors about him and the interest from the Clippers and the Bulls. And obviously the Knicks weren't included in that, but they're interested. I don't know why they wouldn't be. That's been a conversation for so long. And this conversation surrounding Lonzo has been going on since basically the Pelicans got him. So the talk about and I think you have a point here too, James, and I'll address that. I mean, I'm just addressing it now. I think that's fair as well. Getting guys who are locked in for 2-3 years as opposed to one, like like a Collin who could go off for a year, get paid, and then I don't see that happening with Collin. I don't think that's his personality. But again, a valid point, James, and I'll give you that. But now again to Lonzo, the rumors about other teams being inclined to go get him and the Pelicans not being willing to match a significant offer sheet, which, what the hell does that, what's significant? Is significant 25 plus? Is significant 20 plus? Is significant 18 plus million? I don't know. I as far as I remember, it didn't have a number, and I feel like if it did have a number, that's what we'd be talking about right now. So it's very vague, and I'm not surprised because very little leaks from the Pelicans front office and the organization. The hiring, or the possible hiring, Willie Green's going to get hired, being leaked makes sense because Willie Green's awesome. Exactly. And James, who is here for this, the report was, the report was vague as hell. Significant offer sheet, whatever the hell that means. To me, that's probably like 20 plus million. And I don't know how to feel about Lonzo. His career with the Pelicans, his tenure with the Pelicans has been up here and down here. I mean, we know that over that month in February, I think he was shooting like 46% from three, which was absolutely bonkers. I mean, he'll go through stretches like that where he's just incredibly, incredibly hot, incapable of missing, and then he'll go 1 for 8 or 2 for 10 in the next game. There's just so little consistency that it makes me nervous paying him. That's the biggest thing that makes me nervous paying him. We have seen him continue to get better and better and better progressively as he's gone throughout these last 3-4 years in the NBA. And I mean, the 3-point percentage, which I highlighted in terms of Fred Vinson being a possible hire for the Pelicans, he went from shooting 32.9% with the Lakers in 2018-2019 to 37.5% in 2019-2020, and then 37.8% this last season. Now, this is the stat that is going to blow your freaking mind. And more to say, I would personally say about Vinson than Lonzo. But Lonzo obviously had something to do with it. He had to put the work in, right? I don't want to take anything from Zoe. But he shot 41.7% in 2018-2019. And this last season, 2020-21, he shot 78.1%. 78.1%. That is a 37% jump. What the fuck? This is insane. That's insane. For a free throw percentage jump? Good God. And he shot about the same, but about the same free throws per game, which is not a good number at 1.2. But good frickin' Lord, that's insane. And like James just said, and I'll post that here, for the 3-point percentage, and there's more people than James watching this video, and you're allowed to comment, shocker. But he shot 8 threes a game in 2021 and shot 1.6 a game, or excuse me, 4.9 a game in 2018-2019. So the percentage went up and the attempts went up. So that's impressive. But what are you going to be willing to pay him based on the inconsistency? Because that's what makes me nervous. It's the inconsistency. It's the inability to score. I mean, at the rim. And here's another point by that guy _Jaywalk, which, how impactful were those threes? Well, the Pelicans had a pretty bad record, and he's really a set shot guy. It's not like he can come off a pin down and shoot a three. That's not his game. And I understand the fact that he's improved every year. That's the pull for me to keep him. That's why I would want to keep him. But I don't want to pay him $25 million a year. That doesn't sound good to me. 18 sounds good to me. If you're going to want to pay him 18, 19, that's great. But 20 plus is just, For me, Elliott Clough, I don't know. I don't know about David Griffin, but I don't believe in him enough to pay him that amount of money. I just don't. And I just don't feel like we should invest in him. He's too inconsistent. Great point, Rod Ziegler. I'm right there with you. James adds, he was the only three-point threat outside of BI. Well, Nickeil Alexander-Walker got a lot better. Nickeil Alexander-Walker got a lot better from three as the year progressed. In total, not great. But had he not hurt his ankle, he was shooting lights out from three for a while. I'd have to go look at the statistics. But I love Nah, and I think he's going to gradually get a lot better. I also think the Pelicans are either going to trade for some shooters this offseason or get possibly Corey Kispert. So the worry about losing a three-point shooter is valid. I don't think it's wrong to have that concern because of the lack of three-point shooting on this Pelicans roster. But you can't operate off fear, right? Especially when you're already a team that isn't in the playoffs. I think they went 31-41 off the top of my head. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the record that they had this season. I'm not going to look it up right now. But 31-41, you gotta take some risk here. You gotta risk it to get the biscuit, right? I am definitely, that's one of my ways I want to live my life, is I don't want to live off fear. And therefore, I'm not going to pay somebody $25 million because of fear. I'm not going to pay him $21 million because of fear. You let that guy hit the market and you see what you can do to replace him. I'm also not keeping Lonzo because of the keep Zion happy thing. Zion wants to win. I put this on Twitter, and if you want to go find the tweet and you agree with me, retweet it, please. That'd be great. The thing that Zion wants to do is win. It's not keep Lonzo. Zion wants to win. That's where his frustration comes from. That's why he would ultimately leave New Orleans. That's why. He wants to win a title. That's what he wants to do. And he wants to continue to make progression towards that. So you get players that surround him that can help do that. And if you believe that's Lonzo, by all means. But if you don't believe Lonzo can do that, then don't re-sign him just because he's friends with Zion. That's not the way to do that. That is not the way to operate. Obviously, you want to keep him happy, but you want to win. You want to win. And in terms of sign and trade, it said the Clippers and the, let's see here, the Bulls listed as interested in signing him. And I personally think Griff won't let him just walk. I think it will be a sign and trade. So with that, in order for that to happen, it would have to probably be a big market. Probably have to be the Bulls. Probably have to be the Clippers. Probably have to be the Knicks. And the Knicks have a ton of cap space this offseason. I don't know. The Clippers are in terms of cap space, but I don't believe that. Sorry. Echo Gambino, thanks for engaging. I just don't agree. I really don't. I don't think the Lakers are going to make a sign and trade for Lonzo Ball. I mean, they already traded him and they're not going to want to bring him back. Maybe they will. I don't see it happening. Anyway, I feel like it'll be cap hell for the Clippers to figure it out. But there are two players, and they also have the number 25 pick in this year's draft, which is something. I mean, it's a first-round pick. I know Griff is trying to put together assets. Well, this would be a situation. Exactly. They'd have to figure that out. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how they would. I don't know what they would do. I'm not a cap expert either, so I don't know how they do that. But for those of you who are listening to the podcast, James commented and said, you can't sign and trade if you're already over the cap. Again, true. I don't know how to figure that out. But there are players that the Clippers have, i.e. Luke Kennard, maybe a Marcus Morris. I don't really want any sort of toxicity in the locker room. But he was pretty much a leader for the Clippers this last year with Ty Lue at the helm. And so that's a possibility. Then the Bulls really just don't have that much. I mean, Kobe White, but he also shot under 36% the last 2 years from three. Did shoot 90% from the free throw line. And then for the Knicks, I don't want Obi Toppin. I could tell you that. I mean, if you can get Emmanuel quickly, that'd be sweet. There's just, and of course, the Alec Burks, the Reggie Bullocks, and they have a ton of firsts. between their picks in Dallas. So there's options there, and maybe somebody's going to come out of the woodwork, and Lonzo will say, "Hey, I want to play with you." And maybe it's Charlotte. Maybe Charlotte goes out to get him, and the Pelicans can get Miles Bridges in exchange. That'd be sweet. I don't see that happening, but it'd be dope. So those are your possibilities. Again, folks, Willie Green probably going to be the hire. If you haven't yet listened to the video on YouTube, it's on my page. It's just 8 minutes describing what Willie Green has done with the Suns to make things work in terms of relationships and stuff like that. Dwayne Rankin, Suns insider from the Arizona Republic, or AZ Central on Twitter, joined the show and shared some insights, some personal stories that he had heard from Green and from players, and it was awesome. And if you want to hear more about what Green can bring to the Pelicans from Rankin, we have a full-length podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on our Boot Crew Media site, Podbean, and you know, on Facebook as well. I don't think we were on Facebook at that point in time, but either way, there's a ton of places to check that out. YouTube, probably the more accessible if you're already going to check that out, that clip out. But we've also got an article on bootcrewmedia.com describing the 3 coaches. And of course, you can check out the little brief message on Green in there as well. So folks, again, thank you so much for tuning in today. Once you see this on Twitter, and if you missed it, drop a comment, drop it on Facebook, drop it on YouTube, drop a like. Do you want Collin Sexton? What do you think the Pelicans can get in exchange for Lonzo Ball, and who do they trade him to? Because I'm trying to figure it out, and I would like to see what everybody else thinks as well. Again, folks, thank you so much for tuning in today. I am Elliot Clough, at Elliot Clough on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe, follow, like, etc. All that. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Go check out bootcrewmedia.com. That's it. So once again, folks, I am Elliot Clough, at Elliot Clough on Twitter, and this was Pelicans Plus.